After the Battle of Dyrrhachium, Julius Caesar and his legions marched eastward. Pursued by Pompey's forces, Caesar chose to cross the Pindus Mountains and settle in the fertile valley of Macedonia to sustain his troops. The exact location of Pompey's camp in this valley, and consequently the name of the impending battle, has been a subject of scholarly debate due to conflicting ancient accounts and modern archaeological evidence. Two prevailing theories suggest the camp was either southeast of the Enipeus River, near the town of Pharsalus, modern Pharsala, or north of the river, close to Pharsalus, Old Pharsalus, possibly modern Crene. Before I proceed further, I have a humble request to make. I would greatly appreciate if you could support me by subscribing to my channel. Now, let's continue. Pompey's army maintained a strategic high ground position, while Caesar gradually advanced his legions closer to the hill. Refusing to engage Pompey on unfavorable terrain, Caesar was preparing to relocate when he observed Pompey inexplicably descending onto the plain. Both sides ready for the battle, which would take place on August 9th. Pompey arranged his forces into 3 lines perpendicular to the Enipeus River. His army comprised 47,000 legionaries, many of whom were recent recruits. Legions IN3, which had been sent to the Senate by Caesar, were under Pompey's direct command, positioned on his left flank. His missile troops and cavalry, led by Titus Labienus and numbering almost 7,000 men, were also on the left. The center was manned by inexperienced Syrian legions, commanded by his father-in-law, Metellus Scipio, while the right was held by Lucius Afranius with his seasoned Cilician legion and Spanish cohorts, protected by the Enipeus. Caesar's army was significantly smaller, with only 22,000 men organized into 3 thinner lines. Most of Caesar's 9 legions were experienced veterans, many of whom had fought with him in Gaul. Mark Antony commanded legions 9 and 8 on Caesar's left, with legions 6, 12, 11, and 13 forming the center under the command of Domitius Calvinus. Caesar himself stood on the right flank with Legion X and a cavalry force of approximately 1,000 men. Aware of Pompey's superior cavalry numbers, Caesar formed a 4th line behind his cavalry with 6 or 8 cohorts. Caesar, facing a numerical disadvantage, had to thin his ranks to match Pompey's frontage. His left flank, situated along the Enipeus River, was made up of the battle-weary 9 legions supplemented by the 8th Legion, both commanded by Mark Antony. The center consisted of legions 6, 12, 11, and 13 under Domitius's leadership. Caesar placed his favored X-Legion on the right, with himself standing across from Pompey. Observing Pompey's strategic disposition, Caesar further reduced his 3rd line to create a 4th line on his right, intended to counter the enemy cavalry's onslaught. He emphasized the crucial role of this new line, indicating that the day's outcome would rest upon their actions, and ordered his 3rd line not to charge until specifically instructed. During the actual battle, both generals adhered to the traditional triplex aces formation. Pompey's right flank and Caesar's left were anchored to the Enipeus River, where Pompey concentrated most of his cavalry, archers, and slingers to exploit their numerical advantage. The thick formation of Pompeian cohorts aimed to engage the enemy foot, while Pompey's cavalry executed a decisive sweep through Caesar's flank and rear. Pompey divided his legions under 3 subordinates, with Lentulus, Scipio, and Ahenobarbus commanding the left, center, and right, respectively. Labienus was responsible for leading the cavalry charge, while Pompey observed the battle from behind the left wing. Caesar's strategy was to launch an attack while Pompey's forces were still stationary, exploiting the presumption that his opponent's infantry could defend better against Caesar's javelin throws if they did not close the distance. Pompey, on the other hand, believed that Caesar's men would be fatigued by covering twice the expected distance of a battle march, making them vulnerable in close quarters. Pompey ordered his troops not to charge but to await Caesar's advance. As Caesar's infantry neared throwing distance, they hesitated without orders, allowing Pompey's right and center lines to hold their ground. However, in a clever move, Caesar revealed a hidden fourth line of infantry and successfully surprised Pompey's cavalry charge. Caesar's men, instead of throwing their pila, javelins, used them to thrust at Pompey's cavalry, causing a panic and inflicting significant casualties. Following the rout of Pompey's cavalry, Caesar unleashed his third line, comprising his most experienced and battle-hardened veterans, to attack Pompey's left wing. This unexpected assault led to the collapse of Pompey's left flank, and his legions began to break and retreat. Witnessing his army's disarray, Pompey lost his will to continue the fight and retreated to his camp. He then abandoned the rest of his troops at the center and right flanks to fend for themselves. Caesar took advantage of this opportunity and urged his men to pursue Pompey's fleeing forces, capturing 4 legions in the process. The Battle of Pharsalus ended in a decisive victory for Caesar, solidifying his position as the dominant figure in the Roman world. The casualties on both sides have been a topic of debate, with Caesar claiming to have lost a mere 200 soldiers and 30 centurions, while attributing a staggering loss of 60,000 men to Pompey. However, historical estimates suggest more modest figures, with Pompey's losses possibly around 6,000 and Caesar's around 1,200. The battle's outcome showcased Caesar's strategic brilliance and the effectiveness of his disciplined and experienced legions, solidifying his power in Rome and ultimately paving the way for his rise as the undisputed ruler of the Roman Republic. Following the defeat, Pompey was compelled to seek refuge in Egypt, where he hoped to find safety under the protection of Ptolemy XIII. However, instead of receiving sanctuary, Pompey met a tragic fate as Ptolemy's advisors ordered his assassination upon his arrival in Egypt. The young ruler believed that presenting Caesar with the head and signet ring of his formidable adversary would earn his favor, but Caesar was deeply moved to tears when confronted with the fate of his once great rival. That's all for today, and see you in the final episode of Roman Civil War. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you have any suggestion for me, please let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.